Hey everyone, we are here for Live at 5. And today was day 4 with Leonie and Linda. So I know a lot of you also came here through Leonie's group and through her coaching at Forever Young Coaching. Her page is Stay Forever Young. So yeah, you guys are here and you probably heard her story, but as you may not have known, she was a clinical psychologist for 30 years, right? So that tells you about her age, right? And her biological age is 20 years less than, like, the biological testing that you can do. You do blood tests and it tells you your biological age is 20 years younger than her chronological age, right? So she's been working in this psychology field for since right out of college. She got her doctorate and went to work for the Scotland Yard as Clarice, or she was the original Clarice. So if you listen to the interview, she was in the cell with the people, and when what's his name, Hannibal was talking to Clarice in the Silence of the Lambs, she was talking him through the bars, right? When Leonie was talking to these people, she was inside of the cell with them. They locked the door behind her and she had to just talk to them. And she says that, like, these are very intelligent people and all of that. And it was just fascinating to hear her backstory. And then that was when she was, 21 or so, 2021. And then when she was 24, right, she had that near-death experience where, right, there's questions like where she was in a foreign country and she was pulled down. She was rafting and she got sucked down this waterfall, and then the waterfall went down into a cave and she essentially drowned in the cave. She popped up on the other side. The villagers resuscitated her and she came back to life. But while she was out, right, she was talking about how she saw the double helix of her DNA, and how the words that she had spoken over herself when she was really young kind of came up and was like attacking herself. So that's why the email for the recap says Fighting the Coronavirus. And that's why the title here says Coronavirus. Because what she says is really true, right? So let's just, I don't know if I can draw something. Well, I'm a visual person, so I like using whiteboards and stuff. Hopefully I'll put a whiteboard up here soon. I can't see if anyone is joining, so we'll just leave it at that. Anyway, talking about the coronavirus and how just the power of our words and speaking negatively versus positively. So I know a lot of you have probably seen the YouTube video or the science experiment where kids have a plant, and it's a scientific experiment that they've done like in elementary school, where they talk lovingly to their plant and, they really care and nurture for this plant, right? And then on the flip side, you have where they just talk negatively, like they do a lot of put downs, cut downs and things. And that plant, it shrivels up and it dies eventually. And so not only did Leonie see it in her vision when she went to the other side, it's actually scientific evidence that shows how these negative words actually affect us. One of my aunties was she's still in an abusive relationship. My uncle was in and out of jail on drugs, like off and on, and he'd get sober and then he'd go back out. It was just a thing. And no shame in her game, but she looks older than my mom. My mom is the oldest and she's the second. She looks older than my mom because, she just been through a lot of stress. And I know when I was going through a lot of stress, you'll hear more about that tomorrow in my interview. But when I was going through a lot of stress, I gained 20 pounds. Like my body just started to turn on itself. So there's a lot in there. When I was diagnosed with the adrenal burnout, I was suffering a lot from perfectionism. I was suffering from like always wanting to be an overachiever, wanting to excel, wanting to be perfect because I was scared of what people would think of me. And this is part and parcel to how I was raised. My mom kept a perfect home. My grandmother was a real estate agent, back in the 70s. And, they flipped a lot of houses. And so my mom lived in a pristine home, and she has a pristine home. And then when I went out on my own at age 18, I was like, holy smokes. And I figured I had a baby. I moved out on my own, right when I turned 18. I was like 18.3. And yeah, I didn't realize how hard it was to be a mother and all the things that you have to do, when you're a mom. And I kept thinking to myself, how do women do this? How do moms do this? But eventually you learn, you pick up the pieces. I didn't even drive at the time, so yeah. So that's the part about coronavirus, right? When we raise our vibrational energy, when we say positive words, when we talk positively to ourselves, we are raising our immune system. So yesterday when I did the live, I had a very scratchy throat. I was like, oh, I'm coming under the weather. And Nicolette and I actually talked offline after the broadcast had ended. And I was like, yikes, I feel like I'm coming down with something. And you know what it was? I was actually being very harsh on myself for the summit, looking at the numbers and like, wow, nobody's watching, nobody's listening. I mean, right now, nobody's watching, and I was like, well, why did I ever do this? It was at kind of that point where I didn't realize that was what was happening, but I flipped the script. And then this morning I woke up feeling better. I mean, I did do some oregano oil and I did, take some homeopathic remedies, which helped. But instead of, because I was actually kicking myself a little bit too, and not even consciously, this was happening subconsciously and revealed during Nicola and I's after post-interview conversation that I was just being very hard on myself. And I was speaking negatively towards myself. So just with that experiment from yesterday to today, it's a whole different, I feel very different. And I actually didn't change anything really. I mean, I slept the same amount. I know we talked a lot about sleeping yesterday. So just the power of positivity is no joke. I do want to raise this concern. So one of the other bullet points I want to talk about is being stuck in victim mentality. So the power of our words also applies to being stuck in victim mode. There's a lot of crap that happens to us, guys. There's a lot of crap that happened to me, happened to Queena, who was conducting the interview with me yesterday, because I'm like, I'm not going to do this myself. So I enlist the help of my friends to help me out on projects, because you need people to rely on when you're doing hard things. And so in the interview tomorrow, we're talking about how so much bad things happen to us, but that doesn't mean we have to be stuck in victim mentality. I'm taking a class with someone and she's working through her own personal story, and she's talking about the power of forgiveness. And I'll just share this testimonial. So the power of words, I was always blaming, my ex-husband for my son and his drug addiction, and like not doing well in school. Like, I wish I knew that you had ADD, so like I would know my son has ADD. And I was really playing the blame game and the victim mentality, like, oh, they're not paying me child support, so I have to go to work and I have to pay the bills, and like this burden was on my shoulder. And until one day, I was taking a class. It's called Finding Freedom. It's like a local class down in Hawaii, and they have this forgiveness model. It's a prayer that you say. It's kind of like Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is like the power of forgiveness. If you're familiar with that, just let me know. Like, give me some thumbs, or just if you're commenting on the replay, let me know that you know what that is. So I kind of want to get a gauge of where you guys are in your journey as well. So I know a lot of you have come from Stacy, have come from Leonie, and you guys are already working on yourselves. And I'm hoping that this summit is giving you additional tools in your tool belt that you can use. And tomorrow's it's gonna be mine. And the tool that I have created, it's super easy to use, and it's highly effective. Anyway, the power of forgiveness. And so I was praying I was praying the forgiveness prayer for my ex-husband, for both of them. Like, for my first husband, for just not being there and just being like a really crappy father figure, because he abandoned us, and he kind of just, he went excommunicado, so he wouldn't have to pay child support. So he kind of just hid under the radar, didn't contact us for like years, right? And so like, okay, forgave him, and for him cheating on me and all of this stuff. And then I forgave my second husband, and I was like, oh. And for the longest time, I didn't want to forgive him because he heavily abused my son. And I was like, no. And as we were going along in the years, my son started telling me about, oh, this happened to me, like that happened to me. I was like, okay. And these are things that, like, I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy, things that happened to my son, right? And so, God brought it to my attention that even though I thought I had forgiven, like, these things are still popping up. And so essentially I started just listing them all. I was like, okay, boom, boom, every thought that came to mind. I was like, okay. And I would just not even wholeheartedly, it was really about just doing it just for the sake of saying it out loud and speaking forgiveness. And then things just started to happen. Like relationships got restored, repaired. I don't want to go into all the detail because it's personal, but the restoration that happened on the other side of the forgiveness, it's not even, it's just exponential. So I just wanted to point that out if you're having a hard time. If you want access to Finding Freedom, there is an online course on the church's website. It's free. If you want access to that, go ahead and tag me in a comment and say, can you send me the link? And I'll talk to my friends. And I don't remember where it is, but I'll ask my friends from that church and ask them to send it to me if you guys want that. Oh yeah. And then raising our vibration can be as easy as just putting a smile on our faces. Like Leonie said in one of the comments, just putting on some high vibe music, putting a smile on our face, and just raising the vibration. So I know there's no one watching right now, or I can't tell if there is, but I want us to just practice releasing. Breathe in, breathe out. And I want you to do like a full-on exhale, okay? Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Open your eyes and smile. See, I feel better already. I don't know about you. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, so that's most of the tips that Leonie and I talked about in the interview. And moving on to Linda. She has 4 kids under 5, 1 set of twins. They're so cute. I should have her post a picture of them in the group. But yeah, she's so, they're so cute. And she used to be a professor. So if you listen to the interview, we're talking about a time where she was going on a business trip for the college, and she was breastfeeding at the time. So one, she wanted to bring her baby on the trip. And then the other piece was she needed to bring her breast pump so she could pump out her milk while she was on this conference. And so she asked them to pay for her luggage so she could bring her breast pump. They told her, no, like, we're not paying for an extra luggage. Like, and it was kind of like, the other men don't need to bring an extra luggage bag, so why do you have to? Instead of, making a concession for her because she's a woman and she's a breastfeeding mom and she's bringing the extra equipment so she can pump out her milk. Yeah. We go into more detail about that, but really, after we had that interview, I made a social media post about being a man's world, because I worked in an oil refinery for 19 years, and I was discriminated against for like most of my career until I worked my way up. But as I was explaining to someone at church or at a networking event like earlier this week, because she said like she was getting, not picked on, but just being passed over because she was a woman, and like there's different rules for women and the whole thing. And I told her, I said, it used to bother me, but eventually I actually had fun with it. So people would walk into the office, and it's a field office, so it's like there's oil, like there's muddy boots and boot prints and everything, but they walk in and they see me, they're like, and they look at the next man in the room, and he's not even like, he would be an engineer or an electrician or whatever, not the plant operator who I was, right? So, or even I was in charge, right? I was the head operator, I was in charge of other operators. They would automatically look at, the person working under me, because he was a man. I'm like, hey, I want to like, can you help me? Because we had people, specialists that used to come and fix things or do things in our plant. And it was so hilarious. Every time the men would be like, oh no, she's in charge. And then they would have this look on their face that was just, oh, I'm so sorry. And I would just laugh it off because I was used to it, and it would amuse me, But when I was like really ego driven back in the beginning of my career, it was like I would have been really offended and super upset. And so, thank God for resilience. I'll just put it that way. Oh, hi, Nicolette. Yay. I have someone attending. Right. So it's a man's world, but it doesn't have to be. Most of the people in here are women. There was a man that asked if he could listen to the interviews, and there was another person that asked, is it applicable to men? Yes, these tips are totally applicable to men, but especially in tomorrow's interview with Holly, she's going to be talking about body language and how to approach conversations, especially scary conversations that you're walking into, like with your boss or people who are just bullying you. How to walk into those conversations with a whole different set of body language. She's going to walk you through it all, and just the magic that happens with the power of body language. So it's going to be so great. But yeah, Linda, getting out of the bed at 4 a.m. So she's not a professor anymore. She has a PhD. She was a professor in tourism, I want to say. And she's not doing that anymore because she has started a career as a content strategist. So if you know anything about creating a curriculum as a professor and being a content strategist, there's not that much different when you're doing these. Like I was a learning and development coordinator at my job. It's a big corporation, right? Setting up all of these interviews and coordinating those things, it was old hat for me because that's what I did at corporate. Same thing with Linda. She's a content strategist, just same thing. Making a lesson plan, making content for your Facebook or whatever platform you're using, right? It's just curriculum. Anyhow, she wakes up now at 4 a.m. because she has kids. So she gets up at 4, goes to Starbucks, opens at 5 a.m. and she works from 5 a.m. till whenever, and then she comes home and takes her kids, does the kid thing. And so she knocks out her day in the wee hours of the morning. Like some days are different because her husband works from home sometimes and whatever, whatever's with their schedule. But she plans to work on content. And she tells people in her content strategy that you have to plan because you can't plan for innovation and intuition to hit. You have to have a plan. You have to have a backup. And so we talk a lot about planning, and plans don't have to be straitjackets. They're just safety nets. Having a plan, if you, right, what is it? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Right, I was a part-time project manager in the refinery as well. And you should see planning, so much planning. Oh, I think I have too many lights on right now. It's hot. But planning, so much planning that happens. When there's like an event that happens every 5 years, people spend 18 months planning for this thing. It's ridiculous. And I was part of that giant project. Wedding planning is a giant project. I did wedding planning the same time that project was live. Crazy, I know, but we picked a date for that. They picked the date for the work project going live, just happened to be at the same time. You just got to have a plan. When I was mailing out my invitations, I'm that person that loves pre-planning. I'm like, okay, if I have 100 invitations to send out, I'm going to, because I read somewhere online on Pinterest that, it's better if you handwrite, the addresses. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm all about efficiently creating labels, and I created return labels that had my address on it. But I was like, mail merge, print out a label, just do it, And although this was my third marriage, this was my first real marriage. The first 2 times we rushed into things. We got married at the courthouse and at the judge and whatever. So this was my first time planning a wedding. And so anyway, I planned and mapped everything out. Like I had a drop dead date of Super Bowl Sunday. Everything for my wedding that could be pre-planned had to be done by February 2nd, even though we didn't actually get married until June. But the project was going to go from, mid-February to well, it's supposed to be May, but it ended up pushing all the way to past our wedding date, and I took vacation, so it wasn't a problem. But planning is super important because there are things that happen that will trip us up, like kid needs stuff for an art project. But if you have your schedule set so tightly, there's no margin for error. Then I am one that plans for errors, and I'll talk about more about that tomorrow. But incidents that happen in your life can be mitigated and pre-planned, or you set up your life to be fail-safe. But life happens, but the more you can look at projects or things happening in your life, and it really takes the guesswork and the fear out of stuff that's happening. Like, well, you can't plan, or your ex-husband is going to do something, or he's going to drop the kids off too early one day, and you're going to have to just deal with it. Yeah, but if you kind of know he's bound to do that, you're like, oh well, he's done it before, he might do it again, so why don't I just plan that he might come by early and try to catch me off guard. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. And planning and decision fatigue. So there is a popular productivity guy online. He's the founder of the 90-day year. His name is Todd Herman. He uses a system or process called Scrum, where you plan things out in 2-week sprints, and you map things out, and then you do you work on one project until it's done for 2 weeks, do an assessment, what worked, what didn't work, and all of that stuff. But he talks about this thing called the Prada protocol. Basically, it's the Steve Jobs, and I guess Prada wears the same thing every day. Or like Chanel used to wear black dresses, just a different black dress every day, and Steve Jobs, you can probably tell me what he wore or what he was wearing on the day he died. If it wasn't a turtleneck and jeans, I don't know, right? But he just had a uniform every day. And for me, I was used to wearing a uniform every day. Like I said, I wore a uniform every day for work. And because I wear a uniform, I didn't have to think about, what is my hair going to look like? What earrings should I wear? I mean, even these, right? This is not the same sweatshirt I had on yesterday. Yesterday's was gray. Today's is black. It was a charcoal gray yesterday, so. But that's my uniform. It's Hanes sweatshirts and yoga pants is my daily uniform for showing up here to work. It's hot though, so I might have to change it. But this weather in California has been really creepy. Just been fluctuating like this. So, decision fatigue. Linda and I talk about the creative brain, the person who doesn't like routines, who thinks that routines are straitjackets. I even have a 30-day meal plan, a rotating 30-day meal plan that just lives on my fridge. So I look at it. My husband is still working his shift working schedule. So I look at it. Okay, is my husband on days or nights, or is he off? When he's off, he's very spontaneous. I'm a planner, so we're opposite in that regard. So I still have to be open to spontaneity, but I plan for it on my calendar. It's like, okay, if he's working tonight, then this was back when me and the kids were there. It's like me and the kids like Mexican food. Husband does not like Mexican food. So I mapped it out according to to have some kind of plan, because it really eliminates decision fatigue. You don't have to think about what's for dinner. I mean, raise your hand or give me some hearts if you're watching the replay when you think every night, what's for dinner? What's for dinner? And this was coming up for us. My husband would be like, oh, what's for dinner? What's for dinner? What's for dinner? Because he, as spontaneous as he is, he's very regimented where he comes home from work, he showers, he eats dinner. So it's, and for me, like if I'm in a creative mode and like writing emails, I'm writing blogs or writing, and I'm in the zone, I stay in the zone until I'm finished. And so even today, he worked the night shift and I cooked between 1 and 3, which sounds really weird, but he leaves for work at 3:30. So me cooking dinner between 1 and 3, I even have it planned on my schedule. It says hubby time 1:30 to 3:30 so that I don't schedule things when I'm looking at my calendar. I don't schedule things in the time where he wants to, he eats before he goes. So I eat an early dinner with him before he goes to work. And that's our quality time thing because his love language is quality time. Going back to what Nicolette was talking about yesterday, love language and how we can love on the people around us. So all of that to say, planning doesn't have to be a straitjacket. That 30-day calendar that I have on my fridge is really just a guideline so I don't have to stand there and be like, oh, what are we going to eat? Oh, and I curated all the recipes because my husband's finicky. My kids have their own thing that they don't want to eat. So I curated 30 of our favorite recipes, put them on the calendar, and it's like, nope, they can't turn their nose up at it because we decided on these recipes. It's like, okay, you're cool with this, right? You like that? Okay, cool. And I just plopped them on the calendar. Because there was a time, I'm not a person who likes to cook. There was a time where I the good thing about my second husband, right, if we're looking at silver linings, he loves to cook. And I didn't have to worry about cooking. And then when we got divorced, I moved in with my grandma, so I didn't have to cook, really. When I moved out of my grandma's house and into my own house, my kids were old enough where they started to cook. They both like to cook because both of my ex-husbands like to cook. So they have the cooking gene. I don't have the cooking gene. I mean, my dad loves to cook. I personally, I don't enjoy cooking. For me, cooking is utilitarian. It's not something I do for fun. Cleaning now is something I do for fun because I like things. Oh, I'm not plugged in here. Yikes. Okay, hopefully that works. Yeah, so planning doesn't have to be a straitjacket. It's just a guideline. It's a fallback plan in case things go sideways. It's like having a fire escape plan. Right? When I was in Hawaii, we had these books that used to come home. We'd have to draw or map out our house and then work on the fire escape plan with our parents. Not only we would ever use it, but in case of an emergency, we had a plan. So that's all planning is, just to reframe planning for those of you who love to be spontaneous. Yeah. So there you have it. Leonie and Linda's recap. What's coming up tomorrow? Tomorrow's our last day. So the interviews will be off the interwebs on Sunday night at midnight. So go ahead and listen to them over the weekend. There's 10 of them. They're about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on which topic. And if you are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I only had till the end of the week, I'm not going to have time to listen to them. just let me know you're not, like you really want to know which one to listen to and what you came here for. Based on what you tell me, I will tell you, okay, based on these things, you should listen to Annabelle's interview, which is what I did with Adele yesterday. Okay, I think that's it. Oh yeah, what's on tap for tomorrow, right? Holly and 3 power poses to be unbullyable. Not unbelievable, but unable to be bullied. Not anymore, but every time you invoke these power poses, it's like magic. If you want someone, not in a manipulative way, but if you have someone who's trying to manipulate you, I know a lot of you are dealing with narcissistic partners or past partners, you still have kids together. These tips will be gold for you if he keeps trying to intimidate you or bully you, or even like if you have a boss that's always trying to like be very domineering towards you, these tips will help you. And I know they work because I've used them. I didn't know what I was doing when I was using them in the sense of how Holly quantifies it, but I have used these in the past in my male-dominated environment, and using them changed the way people looked at me, respected me, and it's a game changer for your life and your business. And then I'm also coming up tomorrow. So I'm going to be revealing the risk resilience matrix. I'm going to be revealing that to you. And it's going to be super good. So, and I didn't upload it ahead of time because if I loaded it up, you wouldn't know how to use it without the interview. So just be okay. It's going to be there tomorrow. Listen to the interview, download the PDF, and then you'll have it. What else? Yeah, tomorrow's going to be over. Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow. And I just want to say, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the summit. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, bye.